I've said this many times, and this is a Hebrew teacher speaking, so you're just gonna have to trust me, when I say that more important than any Hebrew word spoken here, any tune in tefillah that's sung, any historical factoid memorized, is that intrinsic feeling of worth as a Jew. Let me say that again. That intrinsic feeling of worth as a Jew that a JDS education furnishes. That sense of being part of something that is always changing and yet felt to be mystically the same. Those values we hold simultaneously, the first one of caring for the other that comes out of our shared faith as a people, and the other, that staunch independence of mind that's the product of a broad Renaissance education of free inquiry and open discussion. These principles are rooted in every student here at the Jewish Day School and are infused with meaning later in a variety of ways. For me, that love of learning and that inner drive to connect Jewishly led me to Walla Walla, Washington, where I was busy continuing my Renaissance education at Whitman College, much too often locking myself indefinitely between book piles with a sleeping bag handy sometimes for long nights in the library. Tough times. But where it really drove me was to Congregation Beth Israel, which is Walla Walla's tiny, struggling synagogue with no rabbi or leadership. I had originally hoped that the shul would put me to work as a B'nai Mitzvah tutor, but when I called to ask them, I found instead the following very perplexing message on the shul voicemail. It said this, it said, "Shalom, you've reached Congregation Beth Israel. We'll be gathering again for Pesach, April 21st. Well, it was September when I was making this phone call. So, as you can see, there was something of a vacuum in Jewish leadership in the entire region. The two Jewish families with 12-year-old daughters that year in Walla Walla had actually given up hope of ever bat mitzvahing them. There was no one to teach the girls Hebrew within 100 miles. Just by fluke, I happened to have walked into a community that was in need at a pretty critical moment, and due in large part to the skills that I gained here at JDS, I was fully prepared to do something remarkable for them, which was to give them their first ever education in Hebrew. After 10 months of intensive preparations with me and with a presiding rabbi that we flew in from Orange County, my first student, Lauren, had the first bat mitzvah in Walla Walla in 36 years. My JDS education that nurtured a confidence to go out into the world, a desire to step up and help others, also drove me to Israel, where I worked last year as a volunteer English teacher for African refugees. It was Hamor Stephanie's Jewish social studies class in 2001 that actually first inspired me to explore Zionism as an academic discipline. What I found in Israel was simply an extension of that first Israeli history course. I found an endlessly rich country historically and psychologically that challenged every corner of my intellect, that tested my conscience and unhorsed my assumptions. It, at the same time, appalled me, transfixed me, and inspired me. It compelled me to ask difficult, oftentimes painful questions that drove me into my lamplight at night, where I swallowed books whole, 82 of them to be precise, that gave me insight and helped me to process. I built the kind of relationship with Israel last year that I began to build with it here. You see, in an old JDS portable that was crumbling a bit, and almost a decade ago, I began to develop a personal philosophy, an independent-minded sort of Zionism that I erected, that I should never live at the service of anybody else's opinions. At JDS, in a very embryonic way, I first set eyes on a love for Israel that's like a love for a sibling or perhaps a parent or a partner. It means abandoning two luxuries. One of giving up wholesale on a difficult relationship, and the other of withdrawing to flattering in a servile way. The delicate and demanding balance between apathy and Israel, right or wrong, I found, is the great summons of an authentic Zionism. Now, I admit that there was a bit less time to reflect on the meaning of life when I was at JDS 10 years ago. Certainly, there were more important matters to be attended to. There were anxieties over a date to the JDS dance. There were the inevitable politics of the student store, not to mention the consequences of tardiness in Hamor Lissette's class. But through all that adolescent fog, which of which I'm sure you all are intimately familiar, came the knowledge, the drive, and the confidence to be an educated, connected, and conscientious Jew in Walla Walla and in the Middle East. That rootedness, that feeling of worth, is what motivated me to come back here and teach Hebrew as well. We have the privilege of getting to teach this wonderful second language that opens doors to fascinating parts and important parts of the Jewish world. Someday it will also be that same rootedness, that same worthiness is what is going to be my springboard into academia, hopefully with a master's degree at Ben Gurion University in Israel and then a PhD at Oxford. Whatever the future holds, my experience at JDS now and before will be inseparable to my life's pursuits. Giving your children the opportunity to experience this education, this place, as their first fundamental experience as Jews is a priceless gift that's going to inform the rest of their lives. I encourage you with all my heart to support JDS with all of yours. Thank you.